GarageBand Weekly, GarageBand Weekly, GarageBand Weekly. Need an answer to your question, John, you'll have a suggestion. He's a fountain of all knowledge. I think he might have gone to GarageBand College. What he doesn't know, we'll try and find out. So join the chat and give him a shout. Here's John, GarageBand Weekly.
Well, hey, how you doing today? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Apparently, I don't have a voice. Welcome into GarageBand Weekly. On this week's show, I'm going to share 10 top tips. It sounds like clickbait, and it kind of is, for GarageBand iOS. Some you've probably heard before, some may be new to you. Maybe you'll pick up a little bit of an aha moment here or there. Also got some news and notes to talk about. Got your questions. If you have any of those, you can throw them here in the chat. All that in a bucket of fish coming up here on GarageBand Weekly. Thank you for being here. If you do enjoy the show today, you may hit the thumbs up. And if you're watching on the replay, jump into the description. Stumbling on my words today. Jump in the description because you can skip over. If you want to get straight into the meat and potatoes, you can do that as well. I do want to kick off with saying hello to the folks who are here live in the chat. So we're going to say g'day to Fish1999. Hello, Thomas Christ. Hello, Scott Skid64. Hello to you. G'day to Mark Bro. Hello to Jade Star, who I've missed your show the last 2 days. I've been, I've kind of extended my holiday. I've been staying in holiday mode for as long as possible. You know that thing where you get back from a holiday and you're like, I don't want to get back to the real world. That would suck. So yeah, that's why I've been sort of out of sorts and just getting back into the swing of things. It can be a challenge to do that. Hello to Hugh Caldwell as well. As our friend Thomas Christ lets you know there, you can become a channel member. You can donate to the channel and you can support us over on the Patreon if you desire as well. Hello, Moss Music as well, and Andy Aspine. G'day to you. So in terms of news and notes, to say it's the quiet period for at least Apple news and GarageBand news would be an understatement. There really ain't much going on. We're post-WWDC. We're well and truly before the September and all the fun news of iPhones launching and iOS and iPadOS and macOS. I guess the biggest news of late has been around the new iOS and iPadOS betas. So I've been trying them out on both an iPad and an iPhone. There's nothing to see here, folks. To be really honest, there's really nothing that I would say rush out there and download the beta version. I think the public beta is available either now or very soon. So that's probably a time where if you do have a second device and you want to check out what's up, you can jump on your second device and do that. But yeah, in terms of actual functionality, the one function I'm waiting to test, and I haven't done yet because I haven't had a second Mac to use, has been the new macOS and iOS connection where you can see your phone on your Mac. I kind of think that would be cool. And I don't think it's going to work for things like landscape mode and for apps like GarageBand and things. I think it's going to be a lot simpler than that, but it would be very cool if I could just have my phone displayed here so that, when we shift over, when I say, jump on over here and check out studiolivetoday.com/GarageBand for the GarageBand iOS FAQ, I could then just sort of have my phone as half of the screen there. So I wouldn't have to specifically share my phone. I could show my phone and then have bits of information over. I don't know. It seems like it's going to be okay. And the other thing, as Mark's saying here, the AI options are not here yet. So if you watched the WWDC keynote and you were like, oh, this new Siri Pro looks choice, bro, and you're really hanging out for all those the AI, the Apple Intelligence updates, then yeah, you're probably going to be waiting a while because they won't be here. And the other bad news is, here's my take on it. Hot take time. I think that they are going to launch it with the iPhone 16. And the reason I say that is at the moment, they're saying it will only be, so this is the AI versions of the new Siri that has the onboard AI that does all the things that you saw, and all those custom emojis and things. I think that that'll only be on the new chip, which is in the iPhone 15 Pro at the moment, and it'll be in the 16. Because the way Apple are working, if you haven't been following along the last few years, excuse me, is that last year's Pro chip becomes this year's regular chip. So it's actually really good because it means that if you get a 16 in a couple of months' time, in September when they're released, you're basically getting the same guts as the 15 Pro. So I think that's where it's going to land, is that they'll release at least some of the features in September along with the new iPhone 16 and 16 Pro. It'll be backwards compatible all the way back to the 15 Pro, but nothing else. So that's kind of my take on that. And I don't think it'll be everything either. I wouldn't be surprised if things like the ChatGPT integration's not ready yet, because they want to make sure that is spot on and secure and private. Otherwise, could cause some problems. The public beta came out today. Okay, gotcha. Have you seen the first 5 mini episodes of Bluey yet? We are getting 20 mini. Yes, I have. And I had to. Here's a weird thing. I know this isn't a Bluey show, but I'm Australian and I love Bluey. And it has a musical connection because the lead singer of one of my favourite bands does the voice of Bandit Healer, the dad. And I played Custard on Your Music Live as my Pete's pick yesterday. So yes, I have been on there. And sadly, 2 of them weren't available here in Australia. I had to do some sneaky VPN work to get into Disney Plus US version and actually watch an Australian show. Isn't the future weird and wacky? Yeah, it's bizarre. So yeah, that's what I've been following along with. And so that's it. That's kind of the news and notes. The only other big update that I have, and I've got a video here to show you, to play. It's video time. It's show and tell time with Johns. Is to if I can find my download, is to share a little video of my new setup, because I mentioned it recently, but thanks to the generosity and kindness of all of you folks, especially those that support me on Patreon and that support me through the channel membership and support me through donations and all the different ways, I've been able to get a new computer. Yay! So I finally got myself a new Mac. I went with the Mac Studio, the base chip model of the Mac Studio, but I upped it to 64 gigabytes of memory and 2 terabytes of storage. And it is delightful. Can I tell you? It's delightful. Look, and could I have just gone to the Mac Mini M2 and been just as delighted? Yes, because all I really wanted was to be able to have Logic Pro and have GarageBand installed on one drive with all their files, with all their sound libraries, with all the instruments, and not have to have anything external. And that's where we're at now. So why don't I jump on over and show you, if I can find the right button to push. Let's go to Past Pete and a little update so you can see what my messy little studio desk is looking like right now. Thank you, Past Pete. Yes, this is the new setup. There's the new extruded studio. And the good news is that everything plugs in behind now. I'm no longer living the dongle life. We've got everything plugged in via USB or USB-C, including, but not limited to, that Focusrite Scarlett 202. I've got my mixer plugged in there. The camera is plugged in there. They're all in there direct. Still using the Steinberg there into this. I've still got the USB to HDMI over there, which is why you can see the screen on the live streams. Yeah, I've gone all in here. I've got the Magic Mouse and the Magic Trackpad. And to match the white motif, I've finally got a cover for my microphone. So that is the new setup. As you can see, cables everywhere. Need to get things more permanently set up. And the other piece de resistance is this. The new monitor, which has a very nice arm there, which means I can move and adjust the monitor to whatever angle and whatever height I want. I can even like stand up and work, which is pretty cool. So that is the new digs and the new gear. Thank you to patrons, thank you to members, thank you to donators who helped ensure that I can keep doing this as a job. I'll see you. Back to you, Future Pete. Thank you, Past Pete. Always a pleasure, my friend. Yeah, so it is very nice, again, to not be living the dongle life. I've got no additional power required. Everything plugs in directly. And things are just running really nicely. You're probably seeing that there's, well, I'm going to jinx it now, but there's no stuttering in this stream. I'm able to stream a 4K video and put it on a second screen and actually show you that while I'm still running everything else. And the Mac Mini did well. It's sitting over here. It has done a great job and it converted me. It took me from a PC guy to a Mac guy. So job done there from Apple. But yeah, with only the two Thunderbolt and two USB ports, it really wasn't enough to run all the gear that I wanted to plug directly in so that I can do everything I need to do here in the studio. So yeah, it's called a Mac Studio for a reason, and I'll be putting it to the test in the coming weeks and months. It's very nice to have all this set up ready for Songtember in just a couple of months' time. Yes, it looks very, very handsome. I always thought it looked a bit weird, but it looks okay here in the studio, and everything with the new monitor, everything can just kind of sit back there, and I've got like a control station now where I can just get everything done, which is cool. And turn it into a media server. I know I could actually put files on there and serve them instead of the old 256 gigabytes that we were struggling with before. We've actually got a little bit of breathing room. And yeah, I know it'll be not long before I'm like, I really should have gone 4 terabytes, or I really should have saved up and gone 8 terabytes. But yeah, I've still got the 2 ports at the front, and I've got a couple of terabyte SSDs. So if it gets to the point where I want more storage for actual data files, then I can actually put those externally anyway. So it's all good in the hood. If you do have other questions, not Bluey or non-Bluey related, you can feel free to ask them. Just put a Q in front, and I'll answer those either just now before we start our little top 10 chips, or after. I'll tag them for afterwards if you do them as we go through. And if you do have your own tips that you'd like to contribute, if you're watching either here live or on the replay, go ahead and pop them in the comments down below. I spend a lot of time. I pride myself on the fact that I answer every single comment from every single video, and I still do. So when I go to my YouTube studio, the comment from 4 years ago that tells me that I've answered everything, like every day I work down to that comment, and then I'm good to go. And he says, I'm thinking about myself, the M4 iPad. I currently have the M1, which has come out to 4 years old, plus have shamed the screen. We've got screen damage. Cracked the screen, yeah. Look, would I update from an M1 or an M2 to the M4? Not necessarily. If you have screen issues, or if you want a little bit of faster processing, you need to upgrade your storage, etc. Yep. But I've had the M2, I had the M2 for a year, and I've had the M4 now that's probably the other thing I could talk about. The M4 iPad is going really well. But I haven't noticed a difference, put it that way. I'm not the highest end user when it comes to lots of apps and lots of processor intensive stuff, but I haven't noticed a significant difference between the M2 iPad Pro and the M4 iPad Pro. There is a huge gap though, now that I have two iPads. So there's two iPads sitting in front of me. The one that I'm going to be using here is the M4, and underneath it sits this, which is the 2020 A12 processor iPad Pro, and the difference between this one, especially using things like the studio instruments in Logic Pro, yeah, night and day. So I would, if you're towards the end of your either 2020 or 2018 iPad Pro, or even the M1 iPad Pro, might be worth considering it. My iPad budget went into a new PC, so I'll be waiting a while. Yeah, and look, I consider the PC as well. It's not that I just went, oh, I am Apple. I all in Apple now. But it just, for my workflow, it is just so much better, because I do a lot of transferring of files between iPhones and iPads and my Mac. And to be honest, that's a very simple thing, but just the continuity, being able to use keyboards and mouses between different Apple devices, being able to share and transfer files. Yes, I'm still not a fan of iCloud Drive. I wish they would change how that actually works and functions, but that is what it is, and things like Google Drive and OneDrive have their own foibles as well. So yeah, we'll get there. All right, let's dive into our top 10 chips of GarageBand. And again, you may know some of these, you may not, but I wanted to do a bit of an update on this for 2024 to show you what you need to do if you're starting out with, especially if you're a brand new or if you're an amateur within GarageBand. What are some things that I recommend that you do to get yourself up and running? And tip number one is actually really simple and really basic. And if you do nothing else that I tell you here today, do this, and that is to go into your settings up here in the top right, to come down to advanced settings and to turn this one on, 24-bit audio resolution. The reason you want to do this is without this on, it's 16-bit audio in GarageBand iOS. And that means that if you say you're creating GarageBand and then you move over to your Mac or you send files off or you send stems to someone else, everything from here will be bottlenecked down to that 16-bit audio resolution. And that's good. It's CD quality sound, but it's not as good as it could be. So you might as well turn that on. So the first thing, if someone says to me, oh, I've just downloaded GarageBand and I'm just checking, before they finish that sentence, I go into settings, turn on 24-bit audio resolution. Even if you're not plugging in your own instruments and recording your own instruments, it's important to have 24-bit on there because even the virtual instruments, a lot of those samples are 24-bit, but if you have it to 16, it will actually knock that down. So go to your settings, go to advanced, and you can turn some other things on here. I always put multi-track recording. That means you can record more than one track at a time, and I turn run in background on as well. So jump into your advanced settings. It's kind of the first thing I do every time I turn on a GarageBand installation. Tip number 2, this is a really simple one, but I'm surprised at how few people know about it. And that is to reset your faders, you double tap them. So when I see people sort of moving faders around, they don't seem to be aware at times that if you just double tap your faders, they all go straight back to the middle. So I've ruined that now. And here's the problem though, you don't have undo when you change volumes. So keep that in mind. Don't do this. Don't do this on your tracks unless you want to have to then redo your faders. But this works everywhere within GarageBand. This works over here if you're going into your plugins and EQ, say you wanted to adjust that, double tap, and everything just goes to either the middle or its default setting. So you'll see there the compressor, a double tap on the compressor turns it down to 0. So it's not that it goes to the middle necessarily, but it does go to its default setting. If you come in here, say to the overdrive, double tap, it defaults to 6 dB of drive. So it basically brings that one setting back to its default. So double tap on pre-delay puts it at 10 milliseconds on track reverb. So just double tapping on things gives you the default, and it just makes it easy that if you mess around with a bunch of stuff, say I've messed with all this drive and I've like put this to here and this to here and this to here, and I'm like, oh, this sounds awful. Let's just see how awful this does sound if we turn it on. Play. It's actually not too bad.
Heart race, wet palms, all race.
But you can hear there.
No calm, white guilt.
We want that tone to come up.
No.
So if I've forgotten where this needed to go, a quick double tap on each of these will take it back to its default setting, which is a handy thing to have. When you're recording drums, there's a couple of tips. This is a double banger. When you're recording drums using just your standard drums here in GarageBand, there's a couple of things that I recommend you do. Number one is when you hit the plus button here and you add in drums. A trap that a lot of people fall into is it's really hard. It's really touch sensitive. It's really hard to get a good sound. And that is because by default, this setting up the top here, in track settings underneath your mixer, velocity sensitivity is set to medium and sometimes even high. I highly recommend this is either low or off. Now, if you're using drums like I do just to kind of create a drum pattern that you're then going to make your drummer follow, I recommend having this completely off, because this means that when you record in drums, every time you tap a drum, you're going to actually hear it. So that if we say we recorded the drum pad in here, so we're actually hearing each of those kick and snare hits. And if we come back out to our track, there's not going to be any of those missed hits or sounds that aren't really coming through. So I highly recommend turning that one on. The other option here within track settings is to merge recordings. And this is really handy. You might have noticed there when I recorded in that little drum part is I only recorded on the kick and the snare. What merge recordings will do is it'll overwrite this, but it will keep the original recording. It's easier to show this than to explain it. So if we come back to here, if I wanted to now put some hi-hats on here. And again, for whatever reason, velocity sensitivity's gone back to high. We don't want that. So we can record now. And if we want to record in, say, some cymbal sounds, we record over the top and don't do that, if we record over the top and come back, you can see that it is going to actually combine those two. So it's going to put the cymbals on top of the drums. And that can be really, really handy when you're first recording your drums, because you don't have to, I created a second drum kit, did I? No, there we go. And then you can do things like use your drummer follow feature, which is what I'm going to show you right now. So this is what I recommend when you're creating drums. Rather than having to program in your own drums, I love using the auto drummer, but sometimes I want to tell the auto drummer exactly how to play. So if we play this drum part just soloed here, there's our drum part. But if we want to use an auto drummer and actually have the auto drummer follow these drums, what we can do is hit on the plus button here and go to our auto drummer. So scroll across until we get to drummer, turn on the auto drummer, and you can see that Nikki's going to be in here doing her thing. And Nikki's default sound might not work for our track. So if we listen to what Nikki's going to do by default here, I mean, it's not bad, but it's not really the vibe we're going for. The cool thing is we can use the follow feature here in drummer to follow our original drums. So rather, you can use follow to follow your bass or to follow your vocals or your guitars or whatever you like. But if we turn follow on here and the kick and snare pattern, we say follow this 4 on the floor. So this is the drum pattern that we built. And now when we play Nikki's drum beat, it's going to. And the reason it sounds all phasey there is you're hearing both of those drums at the same time. If we turn off our drums and just listen to Nikki, and you can hear there that she goes back to her default. As soon as she's not following this one here, she does that. So if you wanted to follow that kind of pattern all the way through, all we need to do is jump in here, loop this one out, and then Nikki's follow feature will follow everything all the way through, or at least it should. It needs some time to update there, I think. It stopped doing it. Maybe set up your track before you turn on the follow. It's always good when you're doing these live demonstrations when something doesn't work the way you think it should. But if we deleted this and add it back in, it should work. We'll find out. Let's see. Well, let's bring Nikki back over here. Yeah, there she goes. So now she's actually following that track. So you might need to have a little tweak there. Always the way when I'm like, yeah, you do exactly this, and it's going to do exactly that, and then it doesn't. One question I get asked, and our next tip is going to be related to this. Where are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4. This is tip 5, and that is automation. So automation is only available on your volume. So to get to automation, say you want to automate the volume of these guitars here, this one here and this one here. To automate the volume, we tap on the actual guitar amp, so the icon, and tap on automation. And now we can actually turn on the automation here by flicking the latch up the top. And if we wanted to say fade in this guitar, we can actually put a couple of automation points and drag it up. And let's just do the same on this second guitar, just so that we can bring both of these guitars in. And it's a good way to fade in and fade out your different instruments. It works well. Let's play this. So you can use this for a bunch of things. You can use this for fading in and fading out. You can use it for removing breaths, and I've shown that in other videos as well. And you can use it for some other things, some other automation tweaks and tricks, including some panning automation. How do we automate panning, you may be asking? I'm glad you asked. Let's do some panning automation, shall we? Let's just pick one of these. We'll go with this first guitar. What if we wanted to pan this guitar? Well, there's a little trick we can use to automate our panning, and that is to tap on this one and duplicate it, and then tap and copy and paste this audio down into our next track. This is a little bit more of an advanced feature, but stick with me because it's kind of cool. Now we've just got two of the exact same guitar tracks, right? all it's going to do is double the volume of these guitars. But what we can now do is go up the top here to our panning and pan one of these hard left and tap on the other and pan it hard right. And we can force GarageBand, even though GarageBand doesn't support panning automation, we can force it to automate panning by going back into our automation here and changing this so that when it is up on one side, it's down on the other side. So let's just set this up now. So we'll set up this so that that starts there and goes down to there. And then we could add in some more points by flicking it over here on the top right. And we could do it as fast or as slow as we like. So let's do like a slow one and then a fast one just to see how this all works. So all you really need to do is make sure that when one's up, one's down. It doesn't have to be exact because that can kind of create a kind of cool sound. So let's listen to these guitars now with one gumming in on the left and then one coming down on the right. And you're going to hear some really cool panning automation if you're listening in stereo. Over on the left. Moving across our track. Bringing it over to the right-hand side. Let's do a nice fast one here. Over there. Bringing it back. So you can get some really cool swirly kind of sounds and effects here using your volume automation to do panning automation. And the other thing you can do here, you know how sometimes you want that effect, but you only want the effect on like the very end of something? Let's just say that we've got this track here and we only wanted like a big delay effect to be right on the end here. Let's just play this. So we just want the big delay on that last barn art there. So all we need to do here is go into our settings on this track and go to our delay. So we'll edit here, we'll remove the flanger. Let's just add in a delay, a track echo. And what we can do is put the wet to 100%. So this means that this track is just going to be an effects track. It's just going to be the delay. And we want a big, highly repeated quarter note delay at the end of this guitar track. So we can use our automation, well, not even an automation, but a second track to actually do this. So let's take a listen and see if we've got this big delay on the end here. Okay. Oh, that didn't work. You know why that didn't work? You can probably see that because we've got the automation with the volume all the way down. So you have to be careful with stuff like this, that when you're automating something, you remember to turn it back up. So let's just add in a point here and bring it back up so that we'll actually hear that delay. And we could even use this to, if we wanted to make the delay sort of fade out at the end there, we can do that as well. So let's listen to this now. A little bit intense there with the volume, but we can adjust that. But you can hear that you get some really cool, you can do some really cool effects, even though GarageBand doesn't support automation in anything but volume. You can automate both your panning and your effects just like that. So that is our first 5 tips. If you're enjoying these, if you're getting some value out of them, feel free to hit the thumbs up button. That really helps me out. Now, the guitar instruments, the bass instruments, the string instruments, they're fabulous here in GarageBand. And if you wanted to add one of these in, to do that, you hit the plus button here and you scroll across and you can add in things like strings, bass, guitar, but they're kind of fiddly to play. If you try to, or even if you're playing it, if you haven't got the know-how when it comes to playing an instrument in this sort of mode, I've got some good news for you, and it's related to this tip. We can play almost every instrument in GarageBand using the keyboard sounds. And to do that, we just hit the plus button here, and instead of going into guitar, if you scroll all the way across to keyboard and in the bottom right tap on more sounds, what you can actually do is if you go back to main categories up in the top left here, if you go down the bottom here to where it has the others, so this one here, other instruments, check this out. Did you know these were here? You probably did if you've watched this show before. But you've got flutes, you've got clarinets, you've got French horns, you've got brass ensembles, you've got strings, you've got all your world instruments, you've got your guitars, you've got your bass. So I love this for things like your bass, because the bass, I find it easier to be... To play your bass right here is so much easier than having to play it on a bass guitar directly. So the other cool thing is that when we're playing it here, we can use things like our arpeggiator. So you can turn on the arpeggiator and you can create some pretty wacky arpeggiated sounds here using your bass instrument. And you can even use autoplay. So if we tap on the chords, we can use chords mode, but we can turn on autoplay. So we can actually get some cool little autoplay stuff. Oh, yeah. And a bonus tip here, if you didn't know this as well, if you tap with 1, 2, or 3 fingers, you get a different sound. So tapping with 1 finger, tapping with 2 fingers, tapping with 3 fingers. So even though it looks like there's only 4 different autoplay settings here in your autoplay, you've actually got 12, if I did my mathematics correctly there. Yeah, 4 times 3 is 12, right? Because you can use 1, 2, or 3 fingers to tap in each of those, which makes it super cool. Another super cool thing, which is our next tip, is that we don't have to be happy with these chords. We can actually edit the chords that are used here in GarageBand. To do that, tap in the top right on your settings here and tap on Edit Chords. Before we do that though, if you want all the chords to change, say you'd like, I don't want no C major, I want to do this in G major. I'm a guitar guy, I like my G major. You can change the G major and all the chords will update here. But if you're not happy with that, if you're like me and you're like, I always need a B7 when I'm playing in G major, you can tap on this one and you can tap on Edit Chords. And yeah, so if we tap one, it's going to change the chords. So this one here, we could change this to our B7 by just dragging this one, making that a B, and then a B major 7, and hit done up here in the top corner. And you can even change the bass note. Now, for a bass guitar part, it's not going to mean much because B7's not much different to B, right? But when you're using this with an organ or a keyboard or some a multi, what do they call it? Multi-timbral? No? Multi-sound instrument. There's a word for it. You know what I'm trying to say. Then it's really cool. So autoplay can be used here, and we can use any instrument as a keyboard instrument here. The other thing related to that, that's sort of a bonus tip here, is if you use autoplay from one instrument, that you can then change the instrument. So let's say, I liked that autoplay that we used here on the bass. So let's just record and we'll tap with the 2 fingers. It crashes. That's what happens. What happened there? Okay. This is why doing this live is so much fun. I wanted the number 2 anyway. It knew I wanted number 2. So let's put it on number 2. Let's record. That's quite a groove, right? But what if we're like, nah, I don't actually want this on that bass sound. I would actually prefer this on a different instrument. Well, we can change the instrument, no problems at all. So if we go in here, we can tap on the instrument and then tap here where it's got the P bass, and we can change it to anything. We can use any of our synth basses. So if you wanted to use like this 80s pluck bass from the Track Girl pack, you can use this in here. Now it's going to have its own auto plays, which we can use, but at the moment it's going to play. It's going to play that original autoplay. So you can mix and match your autoplays between different instruments, and this is what can get you those really unique sounds. If you're thinking, Johns, it's cheating. It's cheating to use autoplay. Yeah, well, not really. It's actually kind of cool. Next tip, shall we go to it? And that is to check out your additional settings. Now, when folks start out here, I told you in tip number 1, when you come in here and you go to your advanced settings, there's some stuff in here you want to change. But did you know that there's a whole separate settings panel with a bunch of cool stuff? Well, to get to that, we need to swipe up and away and not play Pokemon Go, but go to our settings and jump into the settings app. Now down the left hand side here, this will change in iOS 18 by the way, and iPadOS 18. This is going to be different and better because there'll be a whole separate app section, but it'll be the same principle. We go down here until we find GarageBand, and then look at this. Where did all these come from? There's some really important settings in here. First up, your knob gestures. That's whether you want the knobs to be linear, side to side, circular, round and round, or automatic, which is what I leave my knobs on. I leave my knob to be handled automatically. Crosstalk protection, that stops it from getting feedback and things when you're sort of plugging and you're looping audio through. That's handy to have on if you're having issues. Automatic recording length means if you're recording, not going to cut you off at no 8 bars, which a lot of folks struggle with. MPE controllers, if you have them, you know, and you can turn on support for them. Your keyboard note labels. This one's really handy. If you notice how that when I go in here and use a keyboard, it's actually got the notes on there. Now, I don't know the notes that well, so this is really handy for me. When I'm here in a keyboard, look at that. I can know there's my C1, and there's my C2, and there's all my notes in between. So keyboard note labels is a cool one to turn on if you like stuff like that. It's taken me out of GarageBand. Let's just go back in there. We've got the enable Apple designed audio unit extension. These are the, I think there's 14 of them now, or 15 or 16, there's lots of them. These are those additional Apple AUV3 plugins you can use for free. And this one, the Reset GarageBand, you will never need this until you do. So don't touch this, because if you turn on Reset GarageBand, it will reset GarageBand. It won't do anything to your projects. It'll just reset things like all of these options and your advanced options and your presets and all that sort of stuff. So don't do that unless you have to. But if you ever have that issue where you go to load GarageBand and sucker don't load, then that's what you need to do. Reset GarageBand will just take it out. And sometimes that happens when, say, you've got a project and you leave your iPad on, and then you go back and you try to load it again, and it keeps trying to load that project, but it's corrupted it. For number one, use your version control. Make sure you don't ever have just one version of a project. And for number two, try not to do that. Try not to leave your iPad on. But if you do that, if you have a problem and it's continually trying to load that, turning that reset on can be a good idea. You know, I wasn't going to do top 10 tips without talking about what I just talked about then, which is version control. Version control is important. What is it? So GarageBand has no autosave feature. So you'll notice here that I've been ruining this track today. I did a whole bunch of bad stuff, but that's okay because it's remix 2. And what I did beforehand is I duplicated this track out. So if I don't like any of the stuff I've done there, I can go back to this one, tap and hold and duplicate that, and it's going to create this remix 3. I could also, if I liked what I did, I could tap and hold on this one and duplicate it, and it's going to create remix 4. So what I recommend doing here is every time you're making a major change, so say you've recorded a bunch of stuff, you're about to do your mixing process, duplicate your project. Leave the old one as it is, ruin as much as you want because you know you've got that backup. Once you get past the mixing stage and you're ready to master, do it again. If you're overdubbing some tracks, do it again. Most of my songs have up to 10. You'll see in Songtember this year and last year when we did it, I had something like 14 different versions of my song, and that's not surprising. And the reason I do that is version control. If one goes wrong, you've got the others to fall back to. So now I can come back into this version of the song and it's way less ruined. So it's actually going to be sounding good because all that weird stuff I did isn't on this version. Yes, version control. Come in, version control. Do you read me? The final thing I wanted to talk about here is something that I use a lot. I say this all the time. I say undo is your friend, because if you're like me, sometimes you're accidentally just like hitting record. What have I done? Oh no, I recorded over a chunk of my track. What am I going to do? I've ruined it. Everything is broken. No, of course it's not. We can undo it. Yes, you could come in here, you could tap this, you could carefully delete it, you could grab this and move it across and make sure that you cut, but no, forget all that. You can actually undo. Where did my undo go? Oh, it's over here. So I was using the iPhone version this morning, and the undo is over here on the iPhone version. It's here. I was panicking there for a minute. So we can undo. So just tap undo, and you can undo everything that you do. Now, the other thing that not a lot of people know is because instead of putting, a redo button right here, which would make sense, Apple decided that a long press on undo is redo. So if you accidentally undo, you can undo your undo. You can get a little bit inception on yourself. You can do multiple levels of undo. Yeah, do-a-diddy-diddy-dum-diddy-dun-do. So you can undo, and if you tap and hold, once you've got an undo and a redo in the history, tap and hold, and you've got undo and redo. You can go backwards or forwards, and you've got 10 levels of backwards. So you don't have infinite, unlimited undos. So don't do a bunch of stuff and expect to be able to undo it. That's where version control comes in handy, but you can undo. The other thing to keep in mind is that as soon as you close a project and save out, your undo is gone. When you come back in here, ain't no undo. So a lot of people have said, oh, I made a major problem with my track and I panicked and I saved it. Don't do that. If you make a major mistake, stop, breathe, check in and make sure that you know what's going on, and then check your undo and try and undo it and get it to a safe state before you save, because the second you save that in, you lose that. And if you've overwritten audio, you also lose the underlying audio. So if I'd recorded over this entire track with brand new audio, and then saved out, yeah, it's gone for good. So you don't want to do that. So everything is just, this last couple probably should have been the first ones, but it's all about the precautionary measures that you can take. So there you have it, my 10 tips for GarageBand goodness. Many of these you may have known. Some of these maybe you just need a little refresher on. Maybe you hadn't thought about using automation for effects or for panning for a while. Maybe you didn't know about all those other settings and you're going to dive in there and play with some of those. Maybe you've never tried using autoplay and mixing and matching different autoplays with different instruments. There's a lot of stuff you can do here. GarageBand's amazing. Heaps of stuff under the hood. I hope you found this useful. There it is. Undo is your friend. I know. When I do finally do the merchandise, I need to undo is your friend. Undo is your friend, and 2, 3, 4. Because I do say that. And tap again. They're all things. How is this pop filter going? I feel like I'm up close on it, but it gives you quite a bit of room. So it allows you to be right up on it without popping. That's the whole point of it. So let me know. I'll be listening back to the audio afterwards, but let me know how it goes. So we're going to jive back in. We've got about 20 minutes left. So if there are any questions that folks have, feel free to ask those here. If you do have a question and you're here live, just put a Q in front of your comment. If you have a question and you're here unlive after the fact, you can jump down into the comment section below and ask your questions down there. More than happy to answer those for you. We're just going to have a quick water break. Drinking from my studio live today mug here. Delicious water. Have you seen those things that are like straws that you sniff fragrance while you drink water? That sounds horrific. And I saw a debunking video on those where they tried it out and it was like, this is terrible. But apparently there's like some big YouTube folks who are promoting it. Tell you what. Yeah, I get it. The temptation, like when someone drives a truckload of money up to you and says, "Oh, would you like to promote this service where you get to pretend to be a lord or a lady, and you can own like land in Scotland and pay hundreds of dollars for it?" And like, yes, that sounds like a great thing. Would you like to promote a product where you put water in a bottle and then a capsule of fake strawberry flavor under your nose, and then as you drink, you sniff and it kind of tastes like flavored water? Yes, what a great idea. Yeah, no. For me, it's like, is this something that's related to my channel and actually useful for people? Yes. DistroKid, yes. IK Multimedia, yes. BandLab, yes. Yeah, weird drinking straw smell device? No, hard pass. Anyway. Alrighty. Could you say how to make the WAV file follow the tempo and pitch? I think I missed it. GarageBand does not have any ability to do that, unfortunately. So GarageBand has a follow feature, has a tempo follow feature for virtual instruments, but you'll notice that if I've changed the tempo, so this is at 117, if I change the tempo of this to like 103, it removes some chunks to kind of try and compensate, but it's not going to change the actual tempo of the song. So if I play now... it's not going to work at all because it's moved those around. So it's changed the drummer because the drummer is a virtual instrument, but it won't work for your audio files. Unfortunately, there's no real way to do this. If you're using something like Logic Pro or BandLab, they have Flex Time, which enables you to do things like that to sort of match a tempo to an audio file. If you're doing remixing and the like, if you want a cheap and sort of simpler version of an app that can help with this stuff, Audio Stretch is pretty cool. There's a free version as well as a paid version. So if you search Audio Stretch, there's Audio Stretch Lite and there's Audio Stretch. So what Audio Stretch does is you import export an audio file, and you can change either the pitch up and down by semitone, or you can change the speed up and down by like 10% increments. So it's not perfect, it's not ideal, but it does work. But yeah, if you're heavily into sort of remixing, and I don't know, Thomas uses FL Studio. I think FL's got some pretty good beat matching and flex options, Tom, because it's more for that kind of thing. GarageBand, to be honest, is more for when you record something, you record it at that tempo, and it's not really designed for bringing in samples and loops and beat matching specifically. But let me know if anyone has any other ideas. Is there a way to change the volume overall? This is from Quora. Overall, after you add automation, there is, in fact. I'm glad you asked. So, yeah, you might have noticed that one of the biggest problems with automation, and the reason, okay, a couple of things here. When you're mixing, make automation the last thing you do. So if you do want to automate stuff, say you did want to bring this guitar in and ramp it up here like that, and then you wanted to fade it out at the end with some automation, then I would leave that to the very last thing you do, because as Cora has let us know here, you now can't adjust the volume there. But let's say that you've got this guitar and you want it to be at that exact, you want to leave in all your changes. Or the classic one is you've used it on a vocal and you've ducked every vocal breath beautifully. You've got this amazing sound, but you're like, I just need 1 more dB on my vocal. To change that, we can actually use the gain knob in the EQ. So every track here in GarageBand has an EQ, and every EQ, every visual EQ has a gain dial. So if we come in here to plugins and EQ, here under visual EQ, you'll notice over on the right, you've got a gain slider. So this means that you can leave all your automation settings in there, but actually adjust the volume here. So let's play this. Turn it down. So there you go. That's a little hack to help you if you've already got your automation on there and you want to actually do a volume change. Jump in, Visual EQ, go to there, over on the right-hand side, turn your gain up or down, and it will do that little volume tweak that you so desire. So hopefully that helps you out with your future creations. Hello, Al Davis. I hope you're well. You have put a question, Andy. All right, let me scroll back up and see if I can find that. Danny says, I made a huge miscalculation a couple of weeks ago. I had the bright idea to buy a 10-string champion stick. Grossly overrated my musical talent at learning a new instrument. There you go. Pop filter working well. Good stuff. Good to hear. I'm just going to scroll up because I may have missed other questions. I didn't watch Severance season 1, so no, not. Maybe I should. Instagram, yeah. So Instagram, I say this to my wife that I don't think I use Instagram right because it's instant messaging, but I don't usually respond to it straight away. So I think if you message me on Instagram, it's like you've emailed me. So I normally check my Instagram messages every week or two. If you've got something urgent, I've always said the best way to get in touch with me is if you're a Patreon. If you're part of the Patreon crew, I do check my Patreon inbox every day. I check my email inbox probably every 2 to 3 days. So you'll usually get a response within a couple of days through emails. And then everything else is a bit of a crapshoot because, as you can imagine, I don't do X anymore like the Twitter inbox, but between Instagram, Facebook Messenger, across 3 different Facebook accounts, there's a lot of places where people get in touch, and all the comments, of course. So the comment section funnily enough, if you put a comment in the comment section, you'll probably get a response quicker. So if you don't mind it being public, put it in the comments because I do them almost every day. And he says, what do you think about the new overlay on YouTube? Mine only updated today. So is this the YouTube desktop overlay that you're referring to? Because that one is that you could test it for a while there. I'm just going to fire up a video over here. Let's fire up Jade Star's latest video and see. Maybe they have updated it for everyone now. No, it still looks very much the same. So the new version, if you are playing along at home over here, the new version put like the chat down here. It put other videos up here. It hid the description, so you couldn't actually easily find the description there. But yeah, if you've reverted to that, and you didn't want to, sometimes if you've opted into something, you can go to youtube.com/new, and all of anything that you've tried out. See how it's got here, try it out, sign it up. You can do that, try experimental new features. So Shorts Smart Downloads, for instance, is something that they're trying out at the moment, only available on Android. So if you've turned something on here, you can come back in here to turn it back off again. So if you're finding that your YouTube play surface here is looking really weird, then yeah, go ahead and go to youtube.com/new and turn it off like a light switch, like that. Need to upgrade. I know Logic Pro uses a whole lot of storage, doesn't it? All right, let's see. Can we preview this live video later on? Sure can. So all of the videos that you see here, all of the videos that we do live, go into a video on demand, a VOD file. So it usually takes about 8 to 10 hours to process, and then they're available. But if you have the link, you can kind of watch the stream version. It won't be the best quality because it has to kind of process behind the scenes. But yeah, all 200 plus other episodes of GarageBand Weekly are sitting there on the channel for your viewing pleasure. And the other way to go is to go to studiolive.com/GarageBand. That's the easiest way to find all the stuff that I do, because I've got my 5-minute tip series where we've got more than 50 videos, all just little 5-minute chunklets of tips and tricks for GarageBand. You can check out my GarageBand Essentials video series as well. That has some heaps of good stuff for GarageBand users. So plenty there to keep you busy. Hey, look, we're all amateurs, aren't we? Absolutely. And yes, I'm hoping that we can dive into some more Mac stuff in the future, because I've always wanted to use, I just haven't really been able to use Mac. I've always had a much better iPad than I have had a Mac. So now that I have a Mac that is as good, almost as good as my iPad, I'll be able to actually do more in GarageBand on Mac as well as Logic Pro on the Mac. All right, I think we may be at the end, unless I have any other questions that anyone has asked. I don't see anything here, so we may be able to finish off in just a wee jiffy, but a little reminder of what's coming up. We're back to normal, so we'll be back to having the podcast on this Friday or Thursday, depending where you are in the world. We've then got a happy hour that we do each and every Sunday or Saturday night for you in the US and Canada, and then we do Your Music Live and GarageBand Weekly. So we've got those 4 regular shows each week. I'm working on some more tutorials as well. So we've got more tutorials about Logic Pro for iPad, about GarageBand for iPad, and a few other little things. I found the other day, I'll see, do I have it handy here? I'll see if I do. I had an idea and I want to do something a bit fun. No, it's not there. I found, though, it's in my drawer somewhere, the very first audio interface that I ever used, the first USB audio interface I ever used, and I thought, let's get this out and plug it in, and it plugged in and powered on. And what I want to do is actually see if I can record some audio. So if I can use GarageBand to record vocals and guitars using my very first audio interface ever. And I thought that might be a bit of fun, because I bought that and used it with my PC way back in the day. I reckon if I had to guesstimate, it would have been around 2012. So we're talking 12 years ago, and it was like USB 1.1. It was this little silver chunky one with little dials on top. It had one XLR jack and one 1/4-inch jack, a little slider dial there for the gain, and a headphone jack. And yeah, I want to try and plug that into this setup and see how that works. I think it could be a bit of fun. Thank you, Mark Bro. Thank you to Joel Crouch. Thanks, Hugh Caldwell. Thank you to everybody for being here. Thank you to Danny Gable. Have some old ones, Gina and Adala. Good stuff. That is going to do it for this one, folks. I will see you on the next show. As we always say around here, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, keep creating, and I'll see you next time right here on a GarageBand.